Good evening and welcome to Your Call. It's the one show on Indian television where you, the viewer, are in the anchor's seat. Well, how do you do that? It's simple. You can call us on the phone number on your screen. You can access our website on ndtv.com or walk across to our broadcast vans in major cities. Tonight's guest is a trailblazer in every sense of the word. The first Indian woman to graduate from Harvard Business School, but the first didn't stop there. She's also now the first Indian woman to head an international bank, actually a private sector bank as well in India, the British-owned HSBC. Naina Lal Kidwai, thank you so much for joining me tonight. These are exciting times. We've just heard the good news about the industrial output. Figures are up internationally, optimism that the worst is over. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree, and I think India, relative to the rest of the world, gives one even greater reason to celebrate. Our own economists, HSBC's economists' view on GDP for the next year is 8%. China marginally higher than that. And that
so he's more optimistic than the government.
It's more optimistic than the government, and nor has he changed his views since the whole agricultural scenario looked a little more troubled over the rains or the lack of rains over the last couple of months. And if you look at industrial output, exactly as you said, it would give us reason to believe that the 8% is indeed feasible. So very optimistic. And as for the rest of the world, it looks like it is coming out of the trough. Maybe somewhat sooner than was expected, and I think that is good news too.
While we look at the good news, Naina, experts warn that we shouldn't forget the lessons that were learnt. Many have said that the crisis was triggered by what they call the greed of the modern-day banking system, of 21st century capitalism. What do you think is the biggest lesson we need to learn from this?
I think the biggest lesson is that at the end of the day, you cannot forget why you are in that business. And in many ways in banking, it's really all about back to basics banking. You have to know your customer. When you lend to your customer, you have to know that they have not overborrowed. And when you lose that connect, when you begin to have a second tier that comes in, when you begin to have brokers selling loans, and you distance yourself from your customer, is when the trouble begins to arise. So I think the lesson is well learned. It's back to basics.
In fact, we have a question. Shailesh has written in on ndtv.com from Ujjain in Madhya Pradesh. He asks that, what are your thoughts on 2009 when foreign banks may get a bigger play in India? Now, just related to that, in India, we know that in many ways we've gone back to Indira Gandhi times where politicians across parties have praised her and her system of bank nationalization and says that's what actually saved us at a time of crisis like this. Is that bad news for foreign banks in India?
I believe that what you need in any banking system is a mix, because each institution provides a need which may be different, and therefore you want a range of players. You don't want only foreign banks, you don't want only Indian banks, you don't want just government-owned banks either, because each brings a certain discipline. The Indian banks have served the Indian customer very well. The retail down at the grassroots level is something which our government-owned banks have played in. Have we actually achieved the financial inclusion we should in the country? No, I think all of us should really sit down and really work out why 40 to 50% of India cannot even access a bank, let alone a bank account, not for a deposit, not for loans. So we have a long ways to go.
Tuba.com